Okay, in this example, we're going to go back to the previous model, and we're actually going to export it as a movie. But we're going to do it with 3 cameras and 3 different viewpoints. Now, if you remember, this is our model, and we had the 3rd camera, which looks down on the dice as they roll down the chute. And as you can see, there they go. And this part of that shot is probably the most interesting. Now, on the other hand, if we go up here to camera view, we also have camera 2, which is looking at the other end of the chute. And if we're down there, this part of the shot looks kind of interesting. But you'll notice at the very end, you have a little bit of a problem because that die goes through the camera. So we obviously can't use that. And then finally, we have camera 0, or camera 1, which sees the action from this point of view. And all of those cameras are valid. So let's say that we want to start the action with camera 3, having the dice go down that way. And we want to pick it up with the side camera and then ultimately finish with the last one. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the frames. If you look down here, we have 600 frames in total. We're going to start at 0. And let's say that we want this to go to around 200 frames. That's about as interesting as it gets. So let's say we send that to frame 200. So how we do that is the following. We go to the Render tab, Render Globals, and then we have our regular choices. In this case, we're going to start at frame 1 and end at frame 200, let's say. And we're going to go to the Camera tab, and we're going to choose camera 3, which is already chosen. Now that's important because it's going to render whatever camera it says there. And under Output, we're going to save these files. We're going to make a new folder, and we're going to call this Cam 3. And in here, we're going to call that Dice 3. And then we're just going to hit F10. And there are our frames. So if you see, if I take one at random and I go to Preview, you'll see that it's looking down the chute. Now there's no background there, which we could add one later or just leave it black. But that's basically it. Now if we go back here and we change the camera up here to camera 2, let's say, and we go to our Render Globals, we can even leave that open, change that to camera 2 as well, and go to Output. We can make a new folder for Cam 2. And we'll call that one Dice 2. And then before we leave this, set that at camera 2. Let's look at our render. Let's say that we want that to start there. That would be around 250. And let's say that's good until around 300. And then hit F10. And once again, here are our frames. If I go to Preview, I can see what we've got here. And the last one, we'll just fill in the blank. Basically the same procedure, but you just fill in the frames that aren't used. Now, if we're here in Premiere, basically what we got to do is make a new project. And we're going to call this Dice. And we can put this anywhere we want. And let's say I put it there. and we hit OK. And I'm going to create a sequence which I'm going to call dice roll. And here you also get to choose what your sequence settings are. Now when we exported the camera, it should be at high definition, so we're going to go with that one. You can also set it for any other standard television definition that you want. Okay, so for here in Adobe Premiere, once again, this is where the assets are stored. This is the project window. That's the picture window. This is the timeline window. And this window down here controls your transitions and effects. And over here we have how you handle the effects controls. And you can set this up in many possible ways. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in the sequences. So if we import, and the first one we were going to import was the top view, which was camera 3. So if you click on the first image, and I'm going to click on numbered stills and hit open. And there it is. So we bring that into the sequence, and there it is. And notice how it's not taking up much room. So we're going to just go ahead and stretch that out a little bit so it's easier to see. And there is that first sequence. The second one will be this one. We highlight the first image, check numbered stills, and bring it in. And this one will just park right on the end there. And they should match if you set them up properly. And the final one, we're going to have to work at a little bit. And say we import the last one. We drag that towards the end. So notice that here, I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. You'll notice here in this one, dice are all over the table, but here, they're just coming out. So why don't we take it so that first one is right about there. And I'm going to hit the, first of all I'm going to highlight that image, that timeline. I'm going to hit the C, and I'm going to cut. I'm going to hit V, and just delete that part. Then if I go to this part of the scene, I want to take that, just at the point where that's happening. And if I hit the C button and chop that part, and if I hit V and get rid of that, I can then drag this right on in there. So the final movie would look something like that. And then at this point, we can just cut it before the die gets through the camera. And lastly, if we go down here to our video transitions and go into the dissolves, I'm going to add a dissolve to the end. So, like that. And I'm also going to add the dissolve to the beginning. So you see it's not a very long movie. It's 12 seconds long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to export it. File, Export, Media. Okay, so here we are. This is the export settings. And basically I recommend you stick with H.264 and any high definition format. And the output name is the name of the sequence. And if you click on that, you can make sure you know it's going to the right place. And then basically you can hit Q if you're doing more than one, or just export. You can see that this is our final version. Our dice roll down the chute. They get picked up down there, and there we go. And it's going a little bit slow. You can program a higher speed. Sometimes the frame rates change a little bit, but for this particular thing, I think the slight slow motion effect kind of brings it to life.